What's up, guys? It's Chad with Living the Van Life up here in Washington. Today we're going to talk about urban stealth camping in a van. In today's video I want to talk to you guys about the theories that I employ when it comes to living in a van in an urban situation. I'm going to talk to you about vehicle setup, how I've set up my van with window coverings and privacy. I'm also going to talk to you about different theories of what makes a vehicle better for urban camping and blending into your surroundings. I'm also going to take you guys out and show you some of the spots that I would consider a safe spot to urban stealth camp. With the likes of Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, there's a lot of romanticizing about van life. Especially on Instagram, you can flip through the hashtag van life thread and find tons and tons of beautiful pictures of people out living in their van on the beach and in the mountains and along the rivers and the lakes and enjoying that open road and the freedom that brings, which is great. And that's the amazing part about being able to live in a van. For those of us that haven't found ourselves in that opportunity quite yet, perhaps we're living in and around an urban situation. No matter what, even if you are on the open highway and enjoying the national parks and the awesome backcountry that this world has to offer, you're always going to come across urban stealth camping situations or just straight up stealth camping situations where you want to be stealth. What exactly does it mean to be stealthy? Well, for me, it's blending in with your surroundings. Why is that important when it comes to living in a van? Well, the general population has seemed to develop some sort of stigma around people who live in a van. If you live in a van, you're doing something creepy. So all eyes are going to be upon anybody that makes a scene while living in their van. And so my approach is to apply as much common sense as possible and blend in with your surroundings. My van is a 1991 Volkswagen Westfalia. It's a two-wheel drive. But the great thing about this thing is there is dozens of these things around. It doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. Yeah, mine's a little bit different because it's got more of the off-road four-wheel drive type look to it. But for the most part, these Westfalias, they look like minivans. They look like family vans. And so I'm able to go into a neighborhood and park amongst other vehicles with this thing and blend right in. One of the great things about living in a van like this with so many windows is all the natural light that comes in. And if you're parked out in the national parks, along the beaches, along the river and the mountains, and you have a nice view, you get to enjoy all its grand glory from these windows while you're living inside the van. However, in an urban situation, this could become quite an issue for privacy. One thing that is nice about the Volkswagen Westfalia is the fact that it does come with built-in curtains, and with these drawn, it does provide very, very nice privacy. Even with the great privacy that the curtains drawn provides, there is still the issue of the front windshield. Through the windshield, you do get quite a bit of exposure to the outside world, which becomes an issue. And how I resolved this issue in my Volkswagen Westfalia is I made a trip down to the old Bed Bath & Beyond and I picked up an expandable shower curtain rod and wedged it between those 2 points on my pillars. And also these blackout curtains, which are from Bed Bath & Beyond as well, happen to fit nicely over that curtain rod and provides me a nice privacy from the front of the van. Now, not only in this situation are we keeping prying eyes out, but we also want to keep any sort of light inside the van. In a strictly stealthy urban situation, at night and in your blending in, you do not want any light escaping your vehicle. My main concern right now is the gap that I have above these curtains. There's, a good 4 or 5 inches worth of gap up there, which I'm concerned about any light that I have on at night going through there and attracting any attention. The great thing is these slide right on open, and voila, you're back to having an open windshield. So if you're not worried about being stealthy and want to enjoy the nice natural light coming in, you have that option. As you can see here, the curtains being drawn here in the Westfalia makes for a great, comfortable, and private living space, which is important in the urban stealth environment when you want to be able to live privately inside your van, live comfortably, not worry about prying eyes, not worrying about somebody wanting to cause grief with you because they see you in your van and want to call the cops for whatever reason. So curtains provide great privacy when it comes to living in a van in an urban stealth situation. One thing I've noticed while observing other van dwellers, whether it's on YouTube or even just driving around town, is the fact that there are very many different approaches to providing privacy when it comes to window coverings. Of course, you've got curtains. I've seen people use the insulated panels, which they cut out and put over the window, provides privacy, as well as a little bit of extra insulation in the cold winter months. I've even seen people go as far as putting foil or even spray painting the inside of their windows black. Yes, they all work for privacy. However, there is an issue which you have to consider from the outside. One thing that's absolutely important is to consider what it looks like from the outside. Like I said, blending into your surroundings is one of the most important aspects to living in a van. So whatever it is, whatever window covering that you decide to come up with to provide warmth or privacy or block the light from inside your van to escaping, you need to consider what it looks like from the outside. My resolution to hiding my window coverings was window tint. In the back, I've got a 5% window tint. In the front, it's a little bit lighter so that it complies with local laws. But in this situation, you can see that the tent completely covers up the curtains. If you can only imagine if that tent wasn't there, what the curtains being drawn would actually look like. And right off the bat, as soon as somebody sees curtains drawn in a van, it starts to raise questions of what's going on, is somebody living in there, etc. It is not uncommon at all to be seeing a vehicle with window tint, and therefore it blends into your surroundings. As we approach the front of the vehicle, you see that I don't have any window coverings covering up the side windows or the front windshield. You do see that quite often in RVs or camper vans where they have the window covering that will basically engulf the front cab. In an urban stealth situation, that's not what you want because like I said, any window coverings you see is going to raise concerns. You want this thing to look as inconspicuous as possible, as if somebody parked it and is out and about doing their thing. If you notice my curtain that I ran behind the front seats, I chose a darker color so that it blends in with the background and does not reflect light. You can imagine if it was a white sheet or a white curtain, that would be reflecting more light. Like I said, it's important to look as inconspicuous as possible in these urban situations. All right, guys, so here I wanted to be able to show you the window tint and the curtains in action in a nighttime situation. And as you can see, we're walking around the van here, and very minimally you can see some light coming through. But if you look at first glance, you wouldn't know anything of what's going on in there. But let's go take a look inside, and I'll show you what we got going on in here. And you can see inside we've got full lights going on, but on the outside there was minimal light pollution coming out of the van. And that's one thing that I was mentioning, that with the curtains and the tent, it's important to keep the light inside the van in a nighttime situation. The great thing that I do like about the window tint is that it gives you options. In vans with more permanent window coverings, or even the vans that don't have any windows, the panel vans, that you don't have that option of swinging open the curtains and enjoying the view. With the 5% window tint, you can sit comfortably inside. You've got a nice view all around you. It doesn't block too much of the light to where it looks completely dark outside. But the great thing is, from the outside looking in, you cannot see a single thing, even with the curtains open, which is great. Yeah, you could probably see something if you walked up to the window and actually put your head or your hands over the window to see inside. Yeah, you could see through. But at first glance, nobody's going to see what's going on inside the van. All right, so we've discussed ideas of window coverings and privacy, and we've discussed different vehicles that work better in urban situations over others? Well, the ultimate question is, how do you make a decision of where to sleep? I'm going to take you out into some neighborhoods. I'm going to take you out into some industrial areas. I'm going to take you to some spots around town and show you examples of what make good spots to urban camp, but then also ones to avoid. So hit the road now. We're going to go find some of those spots for you. So here's kind of your typical American suburban neighborhood, I would say. And maybe some people might initially think, hey, that would be a good spot to park because it's quiet, not a lot of traffic. However, the flip side of that is in situations like this, the neighborhood it's a tighter knit neighborhood, and you know, you've got neighborhood watch programs and people are always keeping an eye on what's going on and whatnot. So when you've got a strange van that pulls into a neighborhood like this, it could raise some concerns. Also, in this particular situation, you see very few cars that are parallel parked like this pickup truck. Everybody's parked in their driveway. So if you parallel park somewhere, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. So this is a neighborhood that I would indeed avoid doing a urban camp in. On the flip side of that, I typically try to find a neighborhood that has a little bit more flow of traffic to it. You know, a neighborhood that has cars coming and going and not such a tight-knit neighborhood. That way, you know, when a vehicle that's not normally in the neighborhood pulls up, it doesn't raise any concerns. So we'll go out and we'll find some of those neighborhoods that make a little bit more sense and show you my thoughts on that. In the past, Walmart has always been kind of a safe zone for van lifers. It was a spot that you could go and park and not really worry about, you know, having a security guard come and knock on your window or on your door. It was a spot where you wouldn't really have to worry about the cops showing up. But I have heard in recent weeks, actually, that is changing. I do not know the information for sure. I've only heard the rumors of it. So you should definitely look it up before you consider camping at a Walmart. You can also go inside and check with the management to find out. But that's my approach to it. So this is an area that I would consider an industrial area. And these areas might be a little bit tougher for somebody passing through an area and looking to camp at a spot like this. They're definitely worth the look. It's not uncommon to find vehicles parked in areas here like these gravel roads. You know, I would actually probably consider this area right here a good viable option. Any of those parallel park, it's nice being there next to the trees. You can kind of tuck in next to there up in here. I also think it's important to pick out your camp spot earlier in the day or earlier in the evening, but don't stay there. Find a spot that makes sense to you. Find a spot that you feel comfortable with, but then go spend your time for the rest of the evening elsewhere and only show up to your camp spot when you're ready to bed down for the night. That way you're spending a minimal amount of time in one area and not attracting any attention that might get you in trouble or get a knock on your window. Okay, so right now we're headed down to the city center area. And believe it or not, you can actually find some pretty decent spots that would work out all right for an evening of camping and getting through a night. If you're living in your van for a period of time in a particular area, it's best to take time to go out and study the area, drive around the neighborhoods, find those spots that you feel comfortable with, but then make a list of them and, you know, keep half a dozen to a dozen different spots that work for you and rotate. That's one of the key things, is rotate. Never stay in the same area more than once. Always keep moving through to different spots. That way you're not tracking attention to a particular spot where people start noticing your vehicle popped up there every single night. That could raise some questions for sure. The closer that you get to a downtown situation, you need to pay attention to the parking signs. Here in Bellingham, the great thing is you don't have to pay for parking after 5 p.m. and you don't have to start paying in the morning until 9 a.m. And you do need to pay attention. There are a lot of times, particular times or nights that you're not allowed to park on those streets due to like street sweeping and stuff like that. So if you are going to park on the street, make sure that you're picking a spot that doesn't have any restrictions on the particular night or time that you will be staying there. Here's a prime example of a downtown area. Bellingham's a pretty small town. It's not a huge city or anything like that. It is a college town, which means there's lots of night activity that goes on, bars and stuff like that. So it's not uncommon to see vehicles parked down here in this situation. As you can see, the van blends in fairly well with what else is parked here. You got SUVs, you got cars, vans, and it blends in well to where you wouldn't necessarily look twice at it. However, I do want to point out a situation that I did find right over here is a van parked there, and it's very clear. You can see side by side how these two different situations work out and which one sticks out more. Now, of course, the van on the left is great for living in and camping in and traveling in. However, there again, it's just a little bit tougher to do so in an urban type situation. So that's what I mean right there by blending in. Vehicle selection, what blends in nicely with the rest of the surrounding area. Great van to be able to live in. That one just makes it a little bit tough to blend in on an urban situation. And I think the key part to this is finding a street or a spot where at least there's a few other vehicles around all night. And it's not uncommon to find vehicles parked down here all night. There's apartments parked up right up there, so there's vehicles that remain parked here all night, so it's easy to blend in, which is great. Of course, there's those areas of town where it kind of becomes the coagulation of the people that are maybe a little bit more on the permanent side of van life, more of the homeless side of van life. Those seem to be the areas where a lot of the different people kind of seem to coagulate. And those are the areas that I really want to try and avoid and keep myself maybe up in the neighborhoods, you know, maybe a little bit more on the stealth side. Those to me are not very stealthy at all. Now, all of these areas, they're great because there's bars downtown, there's lots of activity, but there's also apartments around. And you can see all the cars that are parallel parked along the street here. Now, many of these cars, because of the apartments that surround here, will be here parked all night long. So you can see how many opportunities there is to pull up and park along with these cars, park in between these cars, and be able to bed down and have a nice comfortable sleep. I'd say here are some other great areas to consider to be a good parking spot. This is up towards the college, up towards the university. So there's lots of apartments, there's lots of cars parked on the street. I would say this is a good example of something that wouldn't be very stealthy. No, I don't know, they might just be parked here, but in a urban camping situation, that one would be a little bit tough to consider stealthy, mainly because of the front windshield and that the shiny silvery piece up there. And that's one example to show you what I meant by trying to keep that front windshield clean. Otherwise, driving by, I wouldn't have ever thought twice about it, but seeing that, I was like, oh yeah, what's going on there? So just an example. This is an example of a neighborhood that I would consider being a good option for being able to catch a sleep overnight. There again, it's a matter of coming and going on a regular basis. Do not make a habit of staying in one spot all the time. But if you look here behind me, you can see the line of cars, you can see the van down there, blends right in with everything else that's parked on the street. I wouldn't be able to pull this off if I was in a big giant RV. I wouldn't want to push it if I was in a conversion van or a bigger Chevy van, unless I was a cargo van of some sort. But the Volkswagen, it fits in nicely in here, and that's what's key. Guys, I hope that you've found this information useful. This is all information that I gathered over the years of living in a van by trial and error, the do's and the don'ts. And you know, I really tried to go out and watch a lot of the stealth camping videos that are out on YouTube right now, and there is a ton of videos out there about people stealth camping, but none of them, I shouldn't say none of them, but there's a lot of them that didn't really give you the information on the do's and the don'ts. I found a lot of videos of just examples of people out doing it, but with this video I wanted to give you the information that I've gathered over the years and the skills that I've gathered over the years on it. So I hope you guys found it useful. Thank you so much for being part of the channel. If you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button, follow along. Make sure and hit the like button if you found this information useful. And most of all, leave a comment down below. I want to hear about your guys' urban stealth camping experiences. So anyways, guys, thank you so much. Peace out. Keep on trucking.